Nightmare Review Season 6. Welcome everybody. Game 1, and yes, the game we'll talk about, but there's a couple of other things that happened recently that we need to address first. Like, for example, we extended Alexander Holtz 2 years, 867 million, not million, holy moly, 867,000 per year. Fantastic extension. And, you know, we also signed, oh my goodness, what was his name? Jeremy Davies, who I never heard of before. A 28-year-old left shot defenseman to a 1 year, two year, $1.15 million contract. He was drafted in the 7th round back in 2016 by the Devils. He is younger than me. Dang it. I am surprised he commanded that high of a cap hit, but cool. And Holtz getting that extension done was fantastic. I wonder when we're gonna get the Jack Eichel. Just kidding, today. Jack Eichel with an 8-year, $108 million, so 13.5 average annual value. That's the amount that's going to count against the salary cap. $1 million contract.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for!
Cool. That number I am pleasantly surprised by because of what happened with Kaprizov, getting $17 million a year. And then Connor McDavid signed his yesterday, 2 days ago, and it was a lot less than what most people were expecting, although it was only 2 years. Getting him locked up at 8 years for this, with this cap hit, is phenomenal, especially with where the cap is projected to go over the next couple of years. And he signed a contract, scored a goal, and had how many assists? 3 assists today, 4 points, and a loss. The Vegas Golden Knights lose to the Los Angeles Kings 6-5 in the shootout. And this game was a complete roller coaster. The first period stunk. The Los Angeles Kings, who played yesterday in the second half of a back-to-back, just were fast, fleet-footed, and did great things. And I know this fan base is kind of divided on Adin Hill right now, because yes, you can think he allowed 6 goals. Technically he allowed 5, and then he allowed 2 in the shootout, so maybe 7, I guess. If I'm gonna count, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm counting Dorofeyev's shootout goal as a goal, and you'll find out why in a minute. But the first 3 goals that Adin Hill allowed, there were 2 in the first period, I don't think there's much he could have done. But at the same time, you want him to make a save on any of them, right? And there were a couple of times in overtime that he made really, really good saves. And this first goal that the Kings scored, Kuzmenko had just had a brilliant shot, and Hanifin, his own guy, was screening him. Not the greatest game from Hanifin, except for one move in the overtime. Quentin Byfield just absolutely torched Lauzon, who made his Vegas Golden Knight debut today. Lauzon and Colton Sissons, and somebody by the name of Mitch Marner. Honestly, there were so many different jerseys that I was thinking about putting up today, because, you know, Jack Eichel with the extension, and then Marner with, you know, his debut with the Golden Knights, which, fun fact, well, I'll get to this in a minute, but there's a fun fact about Marner and NHL debuts. But the first period was terrible for Vegas. The Kings outshot them like 5-0. 4-0 at first, and then scored before Vegas had a shot on goal. And they just looked slow. It's game 1 of the season, you know, and getting into game shape. And the Kings had their game yesterday, so if you want to look at it as they're on a second half of a back-to-back, they shouldn't have their legs, sure, go for it. The way that I was looking at it was they just played the Avs, got their butts handed to them 4-1, and were wanting to step up and do something today. And also, they were more game ready. They had that game pace, the regular season game pace, right? And so that's how I looked at it. And then the second period started, and I saw them as the team that was on the second half of a back-to-back, because Vegas just comes out running and gunning, and it's Pavel Dorofeyev who scores 2 goals. I'm getting ahead of myself. In the second period, was it 3? He scored a hat trick. He scored a hat trick in the second period. Pavel Dorofeyev, hat trick to him. Oh my goodness, I was so unbelievably excited. The first one was unassisted. He just did it on his own. And of course, it's Vegas' leading goal scorer from last year who needs a contract because he's an RFA. And now, after today, it's kind of completely reasonable that he could command over 10 million on the average annual value. And that's terrifying. But
Knock, knock! Who's there? That door!
just a beautiful snipe from Pavel Dorofeyev. And then there is a boarding play from Alex Turcotte on, I think it was Lausanne, where it was a very dangerous and just stupid play, where he was just into the boards and shoved him in the number. It was a clear as day boarding penalty. It was a major that was reviewed, upheld. And right after this happened, Korczak jumped Turcotte because, yeah, and he took a penalty for roughing or something, a minor penalty. So it was 4-on-4 for 2 minutes, and then Vegas had a 3-minute unreleasable power play. And I completely am fine with Korczak taking that penalty, standing up for his teammate. In that situation, 100%. It's very fortunate that Lausanne was completely okay with that, but that play was just so stupid and dangerous. And Vegas is able to capitalize. They score twice on it. There's one that happens because Pavel Dorofeyev, it's a beautiful play, and it's Eichel to Stone over across the seam over to a wide open Dorofeyev into the wide open net. And then Jack Eichel draws a penalty with his fantastic footwork, skating maneuverability, and it's a 5-on-3, where Vegas does basically the exact same thing. Eichel over to Stone, over to Dorofeyev, into the open net. So that's his 2 power play goals in the second period that were his second and third goal. And at that point, at the end of the second period, Vegas tied the game 3-3. Wait a minute, I didn't talk about the other Kings goal. This one was the... Oh, Malott, which this was originally credited to Joel Armia, and then it was changed. Shoot, what's his name? His first name. It was his first NHL goal, so hats off to him. I threw it for Dorofeyev already for his hat trick, but Jeff Malott, his first NHL goal, he's a week older than me. Yeah. Man, NHL players are getting so young, and I'm getting so, I know, relatively old. At second intermission, Pavel Dorofeyev is on pace for 369 goals so far this season, and I say he gets close. But no, that number would drastically come down after the third because he doesn't score. Instead, it's the first line of Barbashev, Eichel, and Marner doing their stuff. A beautiful pass that Marner had been able to do beautiful passes all day. That's one of the things that he's been known for, almost annoyingly to Toronto fans. Everything he did was annoying to Toronto fans at the end. Most Toronto fans that are actively voicing their opinions on Twitter, which is the majority that I see. So that's unfortunate for those that still support him. But a beautiful pass over to Jack Eichel, who one-times it past Forsberg. They have Anton Forsberg in net, by the way, the Kings. We had Aiden Hill. And I already talked about him. And then Vegas gets the first lead of the game, 4-3, in the early parts of the third, and they come back strong again, with making it 5-3. Marner, again, a beautiful pass, and then it's a 2-on-1 between Jack and Barbashev up through the net. Jack over to Barbie, who buries it past Forsberg to make it 5-3. So Vegas was down 3-1, came back and tied it, and went up 5-3. And I wish that was it. At that point where I was like, oh, this season is going to be so fun. This is going to be fantastic. And then Trevor Moore scored. And I don't know why he always seems to score against us. It's Trevor Moore. And good for him, I guess. I swear it's him and Kopitar that always seem to score. Hey, Kopitar didn't score against us in his final season. I'm sure that'll happen at one point and later in the season. But yeah, we can hang our hats on that. And Trevor Moore scored to make it 5-4. And then Hanifin with this really stupid press pinch in the defensive zone that just, I don't know what he was thinking, and it gave way for the Kings to barrage their way to the net. Brent Clark tips it in, 5-5. And those goals, the one that was most egregious from Aiden Hill specifically probably would have been goal 4 from Trevor Moore, but at the same time, there's like a reason for all of them. The Malott goal was a tip deflection in, so the first 3 were a screen by his own guy, a breakaway all alone from a number 2 overall pick, and then also you've got the deflection. And then the 4th goal happens, and then the 5th is another kind of deflection tip in where your defense just completely collapses in front of you. But allowing 5 goals sucks. And we get to overtime, and overtime, we're already getting like the roller coaster of a game that this was. And the Mitch Magic and the Jack Eichel on the day of the extension having 4 points because he has 3 assists and a goal. It was just insane. It was insane up to this point. And we get to go to overtime, and it's back and forth, the drama, the high stakes. There's a dive from Hanifin, which is his good play, on, I think it was Trevor Moore, that breaks up a basically 2-on-1, and beautiful play from Hanifin to be able to break up that puck. And there's a couple of opportunities for Vegas, but there was good plays defensively from the Kings, from Lafreniere, and overtime doesn't solve anything. So we go to the shootout, and Vegas loses in the shootout. And there was this feeling that I had going into the shootout that was reminiscent of when Robin Leonard was our goalie, and we were going into the shootout with him. It was almost a guaranteed loss. He stunk in the shootouts. He was a good goalie that had good stats, that was good in position. And I think Adin Hill is more similar to that, which might be why the fan base is polarized a little bit on Adin Hill. I like Adin Hill. I really can't blame him for any of the goals that were scored. But at the same time, you need him to make a save. He made this fantastic save on a breakaway in overtime, and that was great, but I wish we would have had that in regulation. And obviously, like, he positionally had saves in regulation. We get to the shootout, we lose. There was a goal from Dorofeyev. That was his 4th goal that doesn't technically count as a 4th goal, which brings up the interesting statistic, because every time Mitch Marner has made a debut with a new NHL team, so the Maple Leafs and now Vegas, his teammate has scored 4 goals and his team lost.
Isn't that ironic?
What a weird stat, right? And I know it's not technically 4 goals, but it should be, honestly. Shootout goals, anyway. Eichel and Marner looked like they were pulling off the same shootout move, and both just missed, and so that was unfortunate. But there's some beautiful stuff going on in Vegas. The offense is fantastic, and LA too. I was genuinely pleasantly surprised by Quinton Byfield. He looks phenomenal. He looks like he's gotten better this offseason and is ready to be the successor to Kopitar, which good for the Kings, good for him. Bad for the Pacific Division and then the league. I really was impressed by Byfield's game today. And Marner's debut, Lauzon got torched on that one play, and he got back up from the boarding hit. White Cloud in the top 4 was interesting. Our defense definitely doesn't look as great, and Hanifin didn't have a great game, and so that doesn't help. But our ability to score in the second and third period was cool. Our scoring has dried up so much that it's a concern. So Dorofeyev is no longer on pace for 369 goals, but 246, which I guess we'll settle for that, I guess. But honestly, just a roller coaster of a game. And even though it ended in a loss, we still got a point, which is helpful because we're tied with the Oilers, who had a 3-goal lead. And Stu Skinner never changed, my man. Watch the Blake Coleman goal. It was the goal 3 that tied it, and they went to the shootout, and Kadri won it in the 8th round of the shootout for the Flames. So, we're tied with the Oil. Yeah, exactly where we want to be. Hey, we're back. NHL season's back. That was a fun game, even though we lost. And it was a great debut for Marner. Jack Eichel looks so sick, and I'm so glad we have him for 8 more years. And this is going to be fun. But that's going to be it for today's Nightly Review. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night.